Hello again. So today I want to talk about Homes for Ukraine. A while ago I said that hubby and I had decided to offer space in our home for a Ukrainian family that was fleeing from the Russian bombs and destruction. We in the UK had been subjected to news saturated with images of destruction and personal stories of dreadful situations with Ukraine. We had also heard about millions of refugees fleeing to neighbouring European countries, mostly Poland because it's right next to Ukraine, and it seems a little unfair that Poland should bear almost the entire burden of this catastrophe. In fact, all over Europe people were accepting these refugees with no questions asked, but they couldn't cope with them all. And the UK government was prevaricating in the usual way, and the British public were getting restive. We want to help, they were saying. Why couldn't we take in more of these desperate people? Surely we should be doing our bit even though we'd left the EU. So then our government did a rather surprising thing. Boris Johnson announced that the UK was going to open its doors to unlimited numbers of Ukrainians fleeing from war. He was organising a special system called Homes for Ukraine. And this would allow British families who were in contact with refugees to volunteer as sponsors. The visa system would be adapted to allow for fast tracking, and once they had a visa, the refugees could travel to the UK to stay with their sponsor family for up to 6 months, and they'd receive an allowance and be able to sign on for work and have access to all social benefits for up to 3 years. The hosts would also be paid a monthly fee for the 6 months to cover all their extra expenses. It sounded so generous. We should have known, actually, that it sounded way too good to be true. Never in the course of Boris's government has he given any sign of wanting to relax the rules on immigration in any way, so why should he start now? I found a family that was looking to flee to the UK. I helped them to fill in the visa application form, which appeared to be the exact same form that was devised to put off would-be immigrants generally, but with a few minor adaptations, which made it rather incomprehensible. There's nothing friendly about it. It goes on for pages and pages. The sponsor has to supply their full names, their previous names if they ever changed them, their address and a scan of their passport. Then the sponsee has to add their own details, all in English, even if they don't speak the language, and a lot of them actually don't. Surprise. So imagine, you've fled from your hometown because it's been bombed to bits. You've fled from your country because the whole infrastructure is falling apart and your job is gone, and it's clear that the Russians are not going to stop their aggression anytime soon, if ever. And you have children, and children have needs. And you have nowhere to live. So you hear that the wonderful, generous Brits are willing to open their hearts and homes to you, and their amazing government is making it happen. All you have to do is fill in this little visa application form. But you have to have a scan of your passport. And you can't do it on your phone because it has to be a PDF, not a JPG. And you have to supply proof that you were living in Ukraine prior to January 2022. And you probably didn't think of bringing proof of your residency when you packed your bags and fled, surprisingly. Anyway, with the help of your sponsor, you finally manage to complete the form and supply all the evidence that is available to you, and hope it'll be enough. It's not clear whether you should fill in separate forms for each member of your family, or if it's okay to put them all on the same form, because the form appears to be changing its shape from day to day, and the instructions are difficult to interpret. Finally, after many hours of work, you and your sponsor submit the form, and you may or may not get an email acknowledgement, and then you wait. It's supposed to take 10 days, give or take. Your sponsor gets the rooms ready for you, starts to plan what kind of help you'll need. Your sponsor also starts to participate in a strangely protracted process with the local council, where they have to submit all their details again several times, do an online interview, fill in more online forms, and finally be issued with a DBS form, which then has to be taken to the local library for the details to be checked yet again in case it isn't really them. And if there are two sponsors, they don't both get processed at the same time, although they both need DBS forms. They're processed sequentially. And then they have to have their house checked by the fire service for safety. But it should all be worth it in the end, because they're offering humanitarian aid to a family that has lost everything and is stuck in a limbo where the nightmare might never end without their help. 1 month later, you and your sponsor are getting a bit restive. Why has there been no news? Did you fill in the form incorrectly? Should you try again in case it got lost? You're getting desperate and losing hope, rather. And your temporary hosts in Poland or Italy, or wherever you landed up, they just can't keep looking after you anymore. Your sponsor tries to find out what stage the application might be at. They check on the various Facebook groups that other sponsors have set up to help each other. A lot of sponsors are having problems discovering anything. And a lot of applications are disappearing under the radar. Sometimes a local MP manages to sort things for one application, but that's just one of thousands. And it's not really their job. It should be the job of the people who've been appointed to do it, but they don't know what they're doing. It becomes clear that a large number of family applicants are getting visas issued to every family member except one. There doesn't appear to be any reason for this, but unless every member has a visa, they can't travel. Funny, one might almost suspect that some kind of nefarious algorithm had been put in place so that it would look as though a lot of visas were being issued, while in fact very few of the people with visas were being enabled to travel with them. One might almost suspect that the generous British public was being taken for fools by an unpleasant Prime Minister with a hidden agenda. It takes a lot of emotional energy to go through this sponsorship process. When it comes to nothing, the sponsor feels stressed, ignored, deflated, and above all, guilty for not being able to help. They promised they would offer shelter and friendship, a place of calm, in a time of huge stress and upheaval for the sponsored family. And now they don't know if anything's ever going to happen, if it's ever going to be approved. Should they just tell the sponsored family, no, sorry, it's not going to work? Or what do they do? And they made this promise because they trusted that their own government meant what it said. And now it turns out that maybe the government just wanted to look good before sneakily wriggling out of its commitment. It leaves a nasty taste, and it leaves thousands of refugees who placed their hope in the UK as a place of refuge in a state of limbo, where the trauma and the stress just go on indefinitely. And because it's all secret and nobody knows what's going on, there's nothing any of us can do about it. Shame on you, Boris.